Hi everyone, and thanks for watching CS Academy Worldwide Educational Platform. This is Sabihuddin Ahmed, and now I'm going to bring you the solution for expected questions for the component 2210 Computer Science. And now this is the pre-release. I'm just going to present in front of you, and you can see that the solution is going to be published side by side. This is the task 1. I'm going to publish it today. So you can see that the question is related to task 1. Calculate the money taken in a day for one boat. So here's the question. All variables, constants and other identifiers should have meaningful names. So now for 4 of the variables that you have used in task 1, state the name, types and its use. Variable name 1, that could be you can see that this could be the name of boat number. Right, this could be boat number, right, this could be boat number. So type integer, right, use to store boat number. Variable number 2, hiring time, type integer, use to hold time in, that right. Variable number 3 could be, let's suppose, counter, which will count the number of repetitions used in this program. Type integer and then use to count values or the repetitions, right. So this is the question number 1 variable question. Right here you can see this. So, and second question is that you can see is here. Question number 2, name and describe the data structure that you have used to store the running totals of the day. Explain why you choose your data structure. Name of the structure. Now you can use total amount. I'm going to use total amount here. Total amount, right, total amount. Description to this is not description, will be, let's suppose, integer total amount and the array brackets, right. Reason to store reason is this, to store. Before I write the reason here, this is the complete description that you are going to show that how this will calculate. Let's suppose total equals to total plus total amount array count, right. And reason to store running values of the task. Right, now you have seen this. So this way you have done second question, And now coming to the next question, 313. So where task 1 you had to store the boat status, number of boats, and then you have to assign cost of half an hour and cost of an hour in one-dimensional array. So you can see that basically these 4 items are for arrays. Now here you can see this write suitable declaration for boat status. Boat status basically I used for as a string. So now you can see boat status. A string boat status, we had 1 to 10 boats. Okay, number of boats can also be used as integer. Number of boats 1 till 10, right? And then the third one is the assign cost of half an hour. Let's suppose if I assign array for amount or cost of hour, cost, right? So it could be integer cost. Now here cost, in the cost I am just declaring 2 arrays, 1 to 2. One is for, or you can assign this, let's suppose cost 1 equals to 12, and you can write cost 2 equals to 20. Now if any of the cases occur, you can see that which cost element you have to use, so you have declared 2 arrays separately. So now moving on to the next part, that is fourth. It has been decided to record the maximum of 8 trips would be taken place, including 10 boats where some will be available and some will not, right? Now here you can write, let's suppose this is basically talking about the timings would be taking place, right? Maximum 8 trips. 8 trips means you're talking about the timing, right? You're talking about the timings. So now here I'm going to pick the pen here. This is going to be here. Now this is what I have to do is, let's suppose 8 trips. So integer okay, integer, right? And available boats time, let's suppose boats time, let's suppose this could be from 10 to 17, that means from 10 AM to 17 PM, right? So this is, you have declared the boat. And now moving on to the fifth part of this, you can see this is here. I'm just shifting this to the next page. Here you can see this. Declare 2 other variables that you have used and state what you used each one for. So variable, that means which keeps on changing, right? So here you can use that what should be the one which can be used here. So just I'm going to include it. So now this could be variable 1, let's suppose returning time. It could be, let's suppose returning time, right? And the use, why are you using this? To store the returning time of the boat, to store the returning time of boat, right? Variable 2, total hiring hours, let's suppose total, or it could be total hiring hour, or it could be, yes, total hiring hour for different boards will be different, right? So total hiring hour, or you can just make it reasonable hour, right? Use to store the total time of a boat hired, or to use for storing total hiring hours, storing time of a boat hired, time of this could be time of boat hired, right? This is the time of boat hired, right? Now part 6, declare two other array which stores the statuses of the boats, timing and paid the amount. Yes, here we have different two variables, we have different arrays. One would be for integer, and the other one will also be the integer. One for boat timing, integer, boat timing. Let's suppose how many boats you have, 1 till 10 boats. This is an array, and you have another variable, another array. Before I move to the next array, this is you have to tell the use of this to store the status. If the boat was available, store the status. If the boat was available, or not, okay, right? Array number 2 will be integer amount of an hour, integer amount of an hour count, right? So this could be the different one, 1 till 10, right? Or the use to store the different amounts of boards, store different amounts of boards, right? So now you see that this is what you have to do is. And now moving on to part 7, when you perform the tasks, you may have used constants. Write suitable declarations for 3 of these. State what you use each one for. So constant number 1 could be, let's suppose, yes, it could be, let's suppose you are fixing the constant half hour amount. Half hour amount, right? So this is this could be integer half hour amount, right? And why it is constant, so you can just use integer equals to, let's suppose, 12. So you have assigned this, you have made the constant of use to store the fixed value of 12 for 30 minutes. So now use this to store the amount for half an hour, right? Constant number 2 could be let's suppose an hour cost integer and hour cost equals to 20, right? Use to store the cost of an hour, to store the cost of an hour. Constant number 3, maybe let's suppose you can use the start time, because we are using integers, so integer start time equals to 10. Or you can just use you will be comparing if time less than start time, then, or you can just write the narration to compare with the input start time, right? So this is the way you can do this. So I can just show you more questions for task 1, and the next part is part B 1-I part 1. Describe suitable validation for task 1. Not before 10 or after 10. See, not before 10 or after 10. Just see, I'm just underlining this thing here. If input time, if time less than 10 or time greater than 17, then print invalid time. Re-input, then end if, right? So this is for this. And now moving on to the restricting board number. Same case will be followed here, but the parameters will change. So here you are inputting the board number, input board number, right? If board number less than 1 or board number greater than 10, then print invalid board number. Re-input and if, right? So this is the way you have tracked these tasks. So you can see that how these are performed. So now give two data sets that you could use to check the validation used in task 1. Explain why you use each data set. So now basically, before I proceed any further, basically data set is the set which is given in the valid range. Data set is the set which is given in the valid range. That means if the data set is of let's suppose 2-digit set, and 2-digit means you have set the range also. That means 10 to 20 or 1 to 10. If the data is out of these range, so that data will not be called as valid data. So you have to provide the data set which can be used in the series of valid data. So now here I'm just writing data set 1. Let's suppose you have board numbers. Let's suppose 1 let's suppose 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. These are the valid board numbers. Validation check, type check. Why type check? Because you are going to check the number, whether it is the number or it is the character. So you have to restrict for the number. That is why you are putting type check. If type check mismatches the input, that is not number, if it is character or a string, so it will alert you that invalid data is entered. Reason for choice: because the data values are in normal range and valid. You can see that in normal range or hence valid, because basically the reason for choice is basically if you have entered the correct data. I'm not using character data in number field, so that is why it is a normal data. So I'm just moving on to the data set number 2, so which is about let's suppose invalid data. Let's suppose if you type in, let's suppose -1, right, 9 for timing, right, less than 10, this is 9 over here, right, and you have 18 and let's suppose 100. These are the limits. So basically the limit data is this: 8 and 19. 9 is the least value, and in between the correct value, that is 10 and 17. So 10 and 17 is the valid and extreme values, but they are not used because of this is the data set which is going to be invalid. Because of this data is not in the range defined, right? Validation check, you can see that it could be used as range data or abnormal data. Validation check you can use here. It could be type check or it could be range data or limit check. Limit check or range check, which is restricting the boundary values. Let's suppose this is for the time. Let's suppose valid time is 10 and 17. See, you can see that this is 17 and this 10. If this 9 is entered instead of 10 and 17, or 18 is entered instead of 17, so this is going to be out, and hence is called is abnormal data, even though it is a type of number data. That is why. So reason for choice: to restrict the limit, restrict the data limit. I'm just writing the short for this explanation. To restrict the data limit. Data limit means to restrict the data limit or invalid data limit. I can also include here invalid data limit, right? So this way you can see this is done. So now moving on to next part of this question. Write an algorithm to complete task 1 validation using either pseudocode or programming statements. Now this is the first task where you have to write the whole validation you have applied for in task 1. Now here I'm just writing it. You can see this. Input, board number, input, hiring time, input, returning time. Okay. So now you can see this is the returning time. So now if board number is board number is less than 1 or board number is greater than 10, right? Then print invalid board. Invalid board, right? Re-input. Okay, then end if. Nice. Similarly, you are going to just check the time. If hiring time less than 10, then print invalid time re-input. And if, and then you have if returning time greater than 17, then print invalid time. Okay, and then re-input. And if, right? This is the way you have to write the code. For task 1 validation, just the validation, we have just validated these values. Okay, and now moving on to the next part, B2B. Here write an algorithm to complete task 1, use data validation check. Basically, in some question, in some part, you have to explain that how did you come to this stage, that how did you solve this question. So this is that question which is of 6 marks, and where you have to explain the code for 2 marks, and then the code is of 4 marks. So right here you can just write, I have just used here the validated data validation, that if and this question is based on some technicality such as use of arrays. And how did you do this? You will be telling that I have declared this array of integer or string or something like that, right? And then you will have to use that if you have used with the for loop or while loop or repeat loop. Okay, so you will be using that. You have used this way, and that's why I have come to this state, and I'm just going to let's suppose evaluate this thing this way. So this is the question where you have to focus for this is the question where you have to focus for 6 marks. This is 6 marks question, but I have just changed this question to the data validation questions here, and there is no explanation required. So here I'm just going to do this again, right? So now I'm going to just write the code for this also. Okay, so now here we are going to use, that means the validation check, data validation check, right? Data validation check means you are going to check whether the data entered is number or character. So that will be checked by using character check, type check, right? So here we are going to do it. So we are again taking the inputs, input board number, input hiring time, input reading time. So input board number and hiring time, that's what I've already done. I'm just writing the code. If not is numeric, what is not numeric? Board number. Then what you have to do is, this is parent invalid data must be numeric, right? Re-input and then and if. On the other hand, for let's suppose hiring time, for let's suppose returning time, so what you are going to do is here basically this could be done the same way. If not is numeric, what is not numeric? Hiring time, right? Then print data must be numeric. Re-input and if, and same is with the if not is numeric, returning time then print data must be numeric, right? Re-input and if. So this is the way you have calculated your you have done your question. So I hope you would understand this thing. Moving on to the next question. Yeah, this is the question, which is a very typical question for this time, that you are required to check the format of the time. So here I would just use the programming skills here, that we are going to do this the way we program. Now see that the question is about write an algorithm to complete task 1, use format check to validate time using either pseudocode or programming statement. Now to validate the time, I'm just going to input the time first. Sorry. Input time, right? You are going to check the time format. So now if time dot format dot hour less than 10, right, or less than 10 or time dot format time dot format dot hour greater than 17 and time dot format dot minute not equals to 30, then, or I can use this also if time dot format dot hour not equals to 10 or 17 or not equals to 17, or time dot format not equals to see, I can use not equals to 10 or time dot format hour not equals to 17 and time dot format minutes not equals to 30. Then what to do? print invalid time format. Basically we have taken time in integer format, that is why we are fixing this way, right? Or the other hand, because I just need to make you clear that there is no 24-hour format, no 12-hour format, and no string format. We are going to focus it here, that let's suppose you have to let's suppose 0 hours till 23 hours. Okay, so just make it the range that is asked. That's it. Okay, and then if this happens, then re-input, and then end if. So this way you have done this, right? So now on the other hand, you have the last part of task 1, that is the second task. Task 2 is going to be started, but first we are going to do this today. Task 1. Write an algorithm to complete task 1. Calculate total time for a single ride of a boat using either pseudocode or a programming statement, right? Now, so assuming that all inputs have been taken, assuming that inputs have been taken. So now what we are going to do is here, if total time hiring less than 1, then less than 1, then what to do? Then half of our amount equals to total time hiring multiplied by 12, right? And if, or we can carry on with the else if statement, else if total time hiring greater than equals to 1, then greater than equals to 1, then total hour amount equals to total time hiring multiply by 20, and if, or else print invalid time, let's suppose, and end if, right? So this way you have calculated all the questions, expected questions set for task 1. So I hope you will like this, and thanks for watching.